the Grey Hat Beard podcast. Hello and welcome to part 2 of show 12 of Grey Hat Beard, and we're in a minute going to be talking about collaboration versus unified comms, better together or mortal enemies. Just before we do that, a quick announcement. We're going to be speaking at Commsverse as Grey Hat Beards, and we have a panel to talk about the etiquette of teams off the back of our etiquette of M365 repository that we've got. Check greyhatbeard.com for links to that. But we've got some guests joining us. So we will have Louise Fries, Carolina Ketikari, and Moraine Summers will be joining us, and we're going to be having hopefully a fighting talk. For those who know the BBC radio show, fighting talk style debate, and running through with some winners, losers, and everyone being happy, and some chat along the way. So sign up for Commsverse. It should be a really good event, and big thank you to Louise, Carolina, and Moraine who'll be joining us for that one. But quick announcement, and we'll be pushing that out on the social medias very soon on that. But for now, let's go on to collaboration versus unified comms. And you may be listening to this and going, what on earth are they talking about? So before we get into, are they better together? Do they keep separate? Maybe we should talk about what do we mean by both of those? And perhaps Iain, as our guest, Mr. Northern UC, you could talk about what is UC?
Yeah, so unified comms is, in my world, is pure the telephony element of Teams and Skype for Business, the predecessor. So what we mean by that is you've got your client. You might have a Cisco, Avaya, Mitel PBX, which has been in the company for a long time. It's either bridging that old world of a PBX and making it work with Teams, or if PBXs are end of life. If then PBX is end of life, getting rid of them and actually going to the latest and greatest, which would be a telephone system within the Teams application. To
your view, unified comms is really about that telephony side of things, and it's about that talking element to it.
Yeah, it is. It's made up of a number of things, really, I guess. So it is primarily telephony, but then it morphs into meeting rooms. It then morphs into contact centers. Then it morphs into call recording. It morphs into triaging. It's all the stuff what you'd have in a traditional telephone system, a PBX in an organization, brought into a soft Microsoft Teams client.
Okay. And would you see video? That's part of the unified comms?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Yeah, it's the audio and video capability.
And obviously, you mentioned Skype for Business a bit there, and then the text chat as well. Is this where we start to blend things together a bit, or?
Yeah. So before Teams, Skype for Business, and before that link, it was purely that was called Skype with enterprise voice. That was the telephone system bolted onto instant message and presence. And then with Teams, it's now collaboration with kind of enterprise voice, which brings all the separate kind of features. I think the better features personally, but I've got to be biased on that front.
I like the battle starting already.
Yeah. To me, Teams without telephony is like it's not got no two front teeth. It's yeah. but yeah. So UC is primarily, let's get the telephone calls, your DDI number from your organization coming through to Teams, and at that single number reach. So you don't have to be sat in Wakefield to have a Wakefield telephone number. You could be sat in Singapore, and that will just feed through to you wherever you are in the world.
Okay. So we think about unified comms really as the old world. Maybe Al, if you can talk about the new world of collaboration.
Yes.
The new world of collaboration. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's new. I would say it's evolved over the last 15 years with things like SharePoint. The objective of collaboration is not to be working in an isolated manner on an instance of a document. It is to be able to say, actually, we can co-author a document. We can have a conversation around what we are doing at the same time. We can share that and have a single point where we know that single point of that document is the master source, rather than distributing copies around and not knowing which one we should trust. And I think that's where, over the years, SharePoint has got better and better. And certainly as we've moved online with Skype for Business, a lot of organizations took up the instant messaging and the voice over internet, the VoIP protocols, to actually be able to enable us to, sit distributed across the country, be co-authoring a document that is stored within a single location where we all know where it is, and to be having a voice call at the same time. And we've been able to do that with Office 365 for quite a few years. Teams brings all of those capabilities together so that we can sit there and have a Teams meeting. We're using video, we're using voice, we're co-authoring a document, we're sharing screens, we're doing all of that. We are genuinely collaborating as a group of people on a single objective of getting a document done or making a decision, delivering a project, whatever it might be.
Yeah. I think that's been one of the problems with the phrase collaboration, because to me, collaboration is talking together, seeing each other, seeing the same thing at the same time. So, we put in the show that it's collaboration versus UC, but those things are absolutely sit nicely together. And I think the reason Teams exists is because people saw in Skype for Business that you suddenly want to work on a document, and then you're trying to pull SharePoint from this. And I think people have seen with Slack where you can chat about a document, and then you want to have a voice chat, and you want to be able to go from that text chat to voice chat and bring all those things together. So I think collaboration is the wrong phrase almost for it, because collaboration should be all of it together.
Yeah, I think so. I think that collaboration is everything. I think the separation I tend to try and make it clearer for clients is content collaboration, where you're really talking about saying, right, we've got all of this content that we need to have it in a place where we can collaborate on it, as opposed to communication collaboration, where we're saying, actually, well, we want to be able to have a text conversation. We want to be able to have a voice conversation. We want to be able to have a meeting. We want to be able to manage our meeting rooms, have video, all of that communication. A lot of clients will struggle to see how that works together with the content. And bringing those two together is a really different set of expectations for clients, and also, as we know, for technical skills for people to implement it all as well. I mean, it's talk about PBX to somebody who's talking about content compliance, they're gonna not be speaking the same language, are they?
Absolutely. I think, you picked on PBX, PTSN, SIP trunks, and I think we were kind of probably in the video, if we go back and look, Gary Allen and I looked slightly glazed at that point. And then interestingly, during the break, you were saying, Iain, that you scribbled down some notes of things, and I have no idea what these are. I need to go and do some research on this.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So yeah, you're right. SIP trunking and ISDN and copper cable and all the stuff I mentioned. I forget there's another world outside of unified comms where, like you say, I scribbled down DevOps, GitHub, Giphy, Splunk, CodeTrans, Metatechnics, PMP, like different language. I'm glad you all know it, because it makes CPS a great company. But for me, it's
I think that's the interesting challenge, is that where I think back 10 years to SharePoint and all of the technologies that we needed to understand around networking, databases, servers, server hardening, security. For a lot of the content side of things, we've quite conveniently forgotten about all of that, kind of the difficulty of all of that, and just gone to platform as a service and gone, this is so much easier. Whereas as soon as you get into the UC side of things, you're back into, actually, there's hardware involved in that. When you're talking about copper cables, I mean, my God, I can see one outside of the window going to, for my telephone line. It is a wildly different world from what a lot of people who are specialists in Teams will think of. They won't even think about all of that stuff.
No, but what's interesting though, on this particular call now with us all on, I can, for you, Gary, in Teams, developing against Teams is a capability what we've got, and it is available. Kevin, I know we've been working on records management within Teams. Al, you're working on security and governance and compliance of Teams. I'm working, or the team's working on unified comms. So bringing all that together is a really good application. And if a client can embrace the full piece of that, that's the future, as they say.
I think to me, what I love about Teams is that people don't need to think about any of that stuff. It just comes to them. Exactly. I think where actually the difference between collaboration and UC comes is almost the implementation. It's the background behind it that no one should see too much. It should be seamless. It should be easy to do. And we talked about records management. To me, records management is vital. We talked about Project Cortex and that link from Moraine. Being able to understand that data and use your content effectively is vital, but you shouldn't have to. Not everyone should have to think about it all the time. It should become natural. I think it was Scott's Guthrie who talked about falling into the right bucket. Make it easy to do things, and people will do the right thing. Know that you just want to pick up a call, and you shouldn't need to know about media routing and getting a nice thing. You should pick up a call, and it should be crystal clear, and your technology should all work. Your hardware should work nicely. It should all fit together. Where the difference is understanding how you get to that point of making it easy for people. That to me is where the difference sits, and there are different skills needed there. And I think coming to one place that can understand more of those, I don't think you're ever going to get everyone that understands every single bit of that, but understanding that expertise is the key to make it easy for the end user.
I think you're absolutely right. And one thing what I keep hearing, certainly from a UC point of view, is you're just turning a switch, aren't you? You're just making a call go from old world to that world. It's easy, isn't it? 10 minutes. No, it's not. There's
plugging in a wire, isn't it?
You're taking one cable out of one place and put it and trying to get that, because you're right, Kevin. So from I guess a user's point of view, they get a little pop-up toast, as they call it in Microsoft, a little pop-up in the bottom right saying a call's coming through. They don't need to know how that call's got there, but also that kind of leads into, in my opinion, a bit of a false sense that it's easy. Oh, it's arrived. Yeah, I've got a call. There's a lot what you have to do in configuration and regex and stuff to make that physical call get to that.
Oh, don't swear. Regex.
There's a lot to it. So you're right. I think Teams masks a lot of the skills that are actually needed by organizations, or they need professional services to do that work and make it all join together.
I think it's the same in the development world, doesn't it, Gary, where you want to hide that complexity for people. I think our challenge as consultants, developers, technical people, even sitting within organizations, is to make people realize this is complex. We're making it easy for you. I think that's the important thing, because otherwise people think it's easy and don't want to invest the money in doing the projects. This can be complex stuff. It's about how we can make it as easy for people as possible.
It's kind of like working in a different way. So combining the collaboration side and the UC side. So, there's contact center functionality within Teams, from the UC side. So then you look at, okay, how does the person who sat in a contact center use Teams to the best of its ability to, one, get the call in from the person who needs help, and also then Teams help that customer service advisor get to the information that they need quickly through the Teams interface. And that's a perfect example of, some external person to your organization communicating with someone internally through a normal interface that we all use, that they use for all their other uses. They can get to documents in SharePoint, they can look at reports, all that kind of stuff. You can end up with, lots of different teams, one for the advisors, one for the people looking after the advisors, with looking at the reports and things, with a Power BI report in a tab and things like that. And it's just that, moving away from this world of having these disconnected systems, which Al, you were kind of alluding to, is that, we've gone from having documents going SharePoint, notes going to OneNote, tasks going some other task management system, and they're all a bit disconnected. They're not joined up. Whereas now we can join them all together in this one team, this one security group, and have everything that team needs in one place, whether that is like the documents or communications. I think one of the things that I tend to do quite a lot from, it's not necessarily UC, but collaborating on documents, put that document into a team, create a conversation, pin the document in there, have some IM chat around that document. And then when you get to a point of, actually, should we just jump into a call, hit the meet now button, spin up a meeting, have that in the Teams channel. And then you're mixing worlds to just speed the process up. of maybe before you'd have gone, oh, I need to send that email, or we need to arrange another separate meeting. It's just, no, we can have this communication. We can just speak to each other. It's like walking from one desk to another and having a conversation, isn't it? But it's all out in the open, and it's recorded because it's all in Teams. So you see the history, which is the best thing.
And I think this is the thing, isn't it? Because as soon as you bring UC into it, and if we're talking about the telephony piece, then it means that from Teams you can make a call to a landline or a mobile phone, and you're not limited, as so many of us are, to just using VoIP and hoping that the person you're trying to call, their tenant, is going to accept a call in from your tenant, and there's not going to be some blocker in the way. So it just kind of makes it, it just brings another capability to Teams that so many people need, because they need to make calls to landlines and mobiles.
The other big, sorry, go on, Ian.
I would say this is a prime example, actually, Al, at this moment with COVID. Everybody's working at home now. So even as of yesterday, I had a client call and say that 250 users, so relatively small. We're all at home. We've had to buy, they called it 250 burner mobile phones, these £10 bits of plastic.
What business are they in?
250 burner phones. They've put a forward on their telephone in them offices to these burner phones to forward the numbers out. But then the user complaining, well, I can't ring back off these burner phones because it's not
your number.
It's not your number. Yeah. This is the key. Can you bill? This particular client was a Mitel PBX. Can you bridge that Mitel PBX into Teams? Well, absolutely, we can. Yeah, you can have their own number come through to your own.
I was saying before this, I was speaking with Kevin, and I was saying about 20 years ago, I worked in an office, and everybody had a mobile phone, not as a mobile, but a portable phone, so they weren't tied to their offices and their desks. And we were kind of like, wow, that's pretty modern, isn't it? But what you're talking about is just taking your number with you wherever you go. So whether you are traveling, if you are a road warrior salesperson, you've got your landline number with you all the time. If you're on Wi-Fi, you're using Teams to actually pick up those numbers, pick up those calls to that number wherever you are. And as you say, importantly, you're always making calls from that number as well. So it's not, shall I ring their mobile or shall I ring the landline? It's, that one number will work.
Yeah, and we're a good example in CPS, myself and Gary up in the north. We've got a 01628 number, Marlow number. We're not in Marlow, but
no one's in Marlow now.
Exactly, nobody's in Marlow now. But that it's a nice world to be in if people implement it and get it all working together.
I guess the other, I know, when I've worked with clients over the years, some of the things that have stopped them moving online have been things like call centers, being able to then make sure that you are routing a call center number to people who are in Teams. And then also things like, where you've got legislation that says you need voice recording to be able to, in FSI, financial services, and all of those capabilities are now coming online, aren't they? So
they absolutely are. So always for the last 10 years in unified comms, Microsoft have always built the solution to be 85% feature rich. The other 15% has always been made up by partners who's building their 15%. And that's exactly the same for Teams now. So you mentioned contact center. Does Teams have a contact center? It has a basic one. As soon as a customer says we need to do call recording, Teams can't do that natively. So then you're looking at a true contact center. Do you need PCI compliance? So PCI compliant credit card taking. Teams can't do that. You need a contact center. Do you need just a basic IVR? Teams has auto attendance.
Sorry, what's an IVR?
Sorry, that's where you'll ring up and it'll say, hello, press 1 to speak to support, press 2 to, sorry, it's a bit like your Splunk stuff, isn't it? This language, so that is that triage of who you're trying to get to. Again, Teams can do that, but in basic form. Do you need the customer need wall boards to say how many is in a queue of calls? Do you want that the CIO to jump that queue to get to the front of the queue? All this different stuff is all based on these 15% what you can add to Teams. So,
So I think the other thing we see with UC, and you mentioned in the first half of the show, you were showing the Gen 2 tools. There seems to be a big thing about Teams about having, you've got these third-party partners, but also having the right devices. What is it about devices with UC that you need to think about? Because all of us, some of us got AirPods. I see Al's got his out-the-box Apple earphones and things like that. Do a nice job, work very well. Why do we need to consider these things like the Sennheisers and the others?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. So if we talk around, I guess, usability of headsets and telephones. So certainly on headsets, the built around wideband and narrowband audio. So and also active noise cancellation. Also the controls on the device are coded, shall we say, to work with Teams. So you can press a button to open Teams, you can press a button to mute yourself within Teams. All these are built into the certification of that device. Whereas I don't know about your AirPods, Al, but I'm sure there isn't a mute button on that anywhere.
No, so, I've got one on Teams.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but mine's at the end of my boom arm. There's a little button which I can click and mute, and that passes the command through to the Teams client. So, and it's all to do with how clear the audio can be with the technology what you're using. So, active noise cancellation. So there's two types. There's one which is kind of in the headset. So Gary, yours particular has this, where you can have it. So all you can hear is the sound going into your ears. However, some people think that's great. I personally, myself, don't like that, because I feel I'm underwater when you've got it on your ear. So there's something now called Talk Back. So on Gary's device, I think on your device, if I know your device, you can actually, is it an MB660?
See what we should do. What was the game show where you could just see a bit of a bit of a product, and it's like
You Bet or something, isn't it?
You Bet.
Yeah.
We should do that. Get 10 headsets, and you've got to get them all.
Name them. But you can do something called Talk Back. So it opens up your mic to give you a little bit of the outside world back into your ears. So so all these little features are part of the kind of the end device. So they're just tailored to work with Teams to the best of its ability
and having the best quality. Because I think one of the things is Bluetooth's not Teams certified. You have to have the dongle to get the band. Is that the
yes, it is.
Band, isn't it? About getting the right range of voice.
It is, and also it's some have tried to put the encryption through Bluetooth as well, so you haven't got anybody eavesdropping on that Bluetooth connection. That's a key bit, going back to the compliance regulatory stuff, and the device I'm using today is a DECT device and Bluetooth device in one. Who would think that you could have both built into one device? So I can go myself personally 270 meters away from the base station and still be on the call. Equally, if my mobile phone would ring, what it'd tell my headset and Teams is my mobile's ringing, and it'd put me in a call within my Teams client, and I haven't even touched the Teams client, if I answer the mobile. So it can pass things through via the device.
I think it's interesting because coming from the collaboration world, it's far more about the software. You can almost use what you want. Your mobile devices are probably the sort of biggest thing, thinking about how it will react to that. But when it comes to UC, definitely considering you can do things with any sort of device, but considering the sort of device you want is key. And I think certainly for meeting rooms, I might try and get for the show notes. There was a lovely picture of the government talking about the Brexit negotiations, and they had in the corner a screen, and there was a laptop there, and then they had the screen for the meeting room device just behind that laptop, and there was wires everywhere. And I know Steve Collier, a former colleague, I think had a little bit of a fit when he saw that. And it's a great example of making sure, and I think you hit the nail on the head with the devices, and it's the same for meeting rooms. It's about making it work nicely with Teams and being as simple as possible. It should just work, and that is the key.
It really is
interesting,
especially with me. I'm sorry.
So the upshot is that everybody should have the right devices, whether it's meeting rooms, whether it's headsets, or whether it's the PBXs and the appliance that are filling that last 15%.
Yeah, so I did a talk a couple of years ago now, and I did it down at the UC Expo about 4 years ago, and I called it the last 3 foot. That was what the actual title was, and it was talking around it at the time. We were talking around Skype for Business.
Meter, isn't it, for our European colleagues?
Yeah, a meter, the last meter, the last 3 foot. So that particular talk was around, lots of companies are spending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in some cases to put this latest and greatest Teams Skype technology out there, and then they scrimp on a headset.
Yeah,
you need to think that's criminal. That's almost should be the real bit of the budget, is actually getting the device right for the user, right for your meeting rooms. And as you say, Kevin, lots of organizations, they want their users to walk into a meeting room. It's telling them on a screen, you've had a meeting room, a meeting booked. They're clicking one button, say join, and everybody's in that meeting. That's the utopia. I still see now that people have got a laptop sat in a corner, wires running off it, a webcam on there which somebody's unplugged, so that's not working. The staff phone on the desk doesn't work, and they're shouting hello. It's all about the.
Can you hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yeah. We can't see you. We can't see. Oh, just a minute. We just need to reboot. It's all the stuff what makes it a poor experience. Getting the end devices the key bit.
And I think as well, I was going to say the meeting rooms and things. We've all been in those meetings where you've got 5 people around a desk and you've got a headset on, and the kit in the room is just terrible, and you literally cannot hear people. It's like this is almost just a waste of time because the quality is just not good enough.
Yeah.
So.
I think I'm going to come back to you in a sec, Gary, because I know you might need to run off shortly. The final topic that we're going to talk about is better together, and I think it's we've touched on this a bit, and you certainly said it. But the key with unified comms and things, there are different complexities. When these all sit together, work well, that's when it's great. When they don't work, that's when you kind of get the confusion, exactly like that, Gary. So all these things work better together because you should know where to go to get things fixed. It should be easy. Things should work, but you understand what the issues are underneath this. But this all works well when it fits together. And I think, Gary, you raised the point there on the contact center. I don't know if you want to add anything else before if you need to run off.
No, I mean it's just the worlds are converging, but whether you need the communication for having a voice chat with someone, whether it's an online meeting, is all part of that collaboration, and the Teams is just bringing all that together into that single place where meetings can take place and have all that recorded, and then you just come back to it as well, and you can just have this history appearing of looking at a Teams channel and just seeing a chronological, this meeting took place yesterday, here were the people in the meeting, here are the notes that were taken, here's a recording if you want, and you just see that activity. It's just like you're left not guessing, okay, what's going on. You can see what's going on, so you're just more informed, and if you're more informed, you're definitely collaborating better because you're sharing information without really thinking about it because you're just working. So that's having all those things come together is just a real like a utopia, isn't it? It's your utopia, Iain, is the meeting rooms. Our utopia is bringing all of this collaboration stuff together. And a
client's utopia is not having to worry about it for users. Users being able to just work effectively, productively, and not have to worry about 7 different tools.
And that's the key for me. I did it again at my user group in Leeds. I did a talk maybe 12 months ago, and I said I think this year we will see Outlook or Exchange being surfaced in Teams. Teams for me is the kind of the surface of everything. We've had SharePoint for a long time. We've had Voice for a long time. We've had
Outlook in Teams. Oh, that's contentious.
It's going to happen.
Email in Teams.
Email in Teams, absolutely. It'll be just another tab. And again, for me, I see Teams. I was going to say persistent chat, the chat piece. We've had that in the UC world since back in 2010. It was called Group Chat. It was built for the US stock market, for them going offline and seeing how much oil was the next day. That persistence of how much it was selling for. That's just now what we know as chat. It's all been there for a long time. Teams is just the kind of the skin of the top. I think we'll start seeing, and we are seeing it, where teams will become almost that pick and mix. You can start picking up Outlook, emails. You can start surfacing other things into that one pane. That's what it's going to become.
Funny enough, I've actually started sharing emails into a team channel to have a discussion around the email and then respond back. And I've started to do that using the share to teams option in Outlook, and that's actually works really well because you get the full email, you get the EML file that gets saved into the channel. Then you can have that discussion. Then you're not splintering your conversations off into sub emails and things and doing it that way. And even better, that email could be the basis of a meeting. So then you can have the meeting against that item in the channel. And again, you're back into, I'm using UC for communication again. So you're just swapping between these different scenarios because, like I say, previously it might have been an email that you'd have sent. It might have been walk over to someone's desk. Now it's I can't walk over to your desk because you're in a different country potentially. So my equivalent is I hit the meet now, and that's like me walking around to your desk.
Well, you're not only just in meet now, Gary. You're looking, right, is Kevin online? Is he green? Is he in a meeting? Is he in a call?
Yeah.
You've got that. You're not just.
Yeah, Gary, you should look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess, Kevin, you shouldn't presence lie as well, because we know you do that. But, there's all that.
Lying. Ooh,
presence lying. Yeah. But there's all that. You've got a little bit more at your fingertips to say, right, I need Kevin. I can see he's in a meeting. I can see from his pop-up at the tooltips, he's going to be in that meeting for the next 35 minutes. I'll tag him for when he comes out of that meeting, and then I'll call him then. All the stuff what you can do with it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think it all comes nicely together, and I think that's a nice place to wrap up for this part of the show. Thank you very much, Iain, for joining us. I think we've got a few events which we usually mention the first half, but haven't this time. I think, Al, you're speaking at GlobalCon 2 next week.
It's Wednesday evening, about 9 o'clock, and that is
9 o'clock UK time.
9 o'clock UK time for to-do managing tasks. So.
Absolutely, which nicely goes between everything, being in a meeting, being able to track actions from that.
Absolutely.
I think you talked about the Cortana briefing email, pulling actions from there, so a great one on that.
Yeah.
Talking about meetings, I'm talking about the etiquette of meetings at GlobalCon 2. So I've got a session there talking about the hardware you need. I admittedly didn't talk about certified devices. A bit late to update that now, unfortunately. But thinking about the sort of hardware you need, how you run the meeting, how you should arrange people and contact them, and the rules of things there coming up. Al, you've got a few user group talks. We'll probably put in the show notes rather than drag out too much, unless you want to call out particular ones there.
Yeah, 25th of June is the NOTS Power Platform user group. So I'm talking about model-driven apps there. And then I think we've got Comsverse coming up. Yes, lots of things coming up.
So we'll put them all in the show notes as events and things like that. Iain, you run a user group, a UC user group. Are you continuing that remotely?
I haven't, in truth. I should do. Yes. Just life has been slightly busy at this very moment, but I need to get back onto that. So yes, I will. Anybody who's listened to this, Northern UC User Group .co.uk is the link. I should update it and get one organised.
Fantastic. Have you got anything coming up, Gary?
Just Converse, just our grey hat beard kind of panel, which I'm really looking forward to. So it should be interesting, being technically the only dev on the group, but that'll be fine.
Louise Freeze may argue with that.
Oh, that is
true. I was going to say she might very well argue that.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, but again, busy with CLI, PMP work at the moment, so that's really taking over. We're seeing a good spike in usage, getting some interest, lots of cool little things like the code tool that we're getting out there as well. So lots of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Iain, for joining us this week. It's really good to open up that world of UC to people who maybe haven't thought about that quite so much, and slightly different to our usual chat. We'll wrap up there. Thank you all. I've been Gray.
I've been Hat.
I've been Beard.
Thank you all, and see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Grey Hat Beard Podcast. The song Drink Up My Mateys was brought to you by Black Bones under a non-commercial attribution license.